Test cricket is about patience in 5 days and going on for 5 days. But for some reason, administrators and some people in the media, they don't have that patience for other teams. For as much as they talk about Test cricket being a game of patience and allowing stories to unfold, well, they don't want to have any patience for these two countries. No. They want everybody. All 12 Test nations should be competing equally.
Now, my next question to you is that this year, the T20 World Cup, Papua New Guinea are going to be making their debut in an ICC tournament. I mean, the senior team. They've played in the Under-19 World Cup, but for the very first time, they're going to be playing in a men's event, in a men's senior event. I had spoken to Jared Kimber, and he said that he's very excited about them, and it's perhaps the best fielding team he's come across. What are your thoughts on the likes of Papua New Guinea and even Oman? Oman also are going to play for the very first time, if I'm not wrong. I think they were there in 2016 or 2014 qualifiers. I think they were there in the 2014 T20 World Cup qualifiers. So they are also
2016, yeah.
Yeah, so they are also making a appearance once again. Namibia is going to come back again after 18 years. So how do you look at the T20 World Cup from the point of view of looking at new associate teams and a few new talents that might come across us during the T20 World Cup?
So Gurk, you mentioned Jared Kimber and what he said about Papua New Guinea and them being the best fielding side he's seen. I've been covering Papua New Guinea matches since 2009 at junior level and 2011 at men's level. And I would agree, hands down, the best fielding side at associate level for sure. And you can argue the best fielding side, period, in international cricket. They are a country, and I only got on the scene in 2009. I'm sure it was like that well before I arrived. But when you see them in person, it's extraordinary. Ian Bishop, when he was on TV at the 50th World Cup qualifier in Zimbabwe in 2018, he was blown away. I remember him talking very, very highly of Papua New Guinea when he saw them at the 50th World Cup qualifier in Zimbabwe, and then again in 2019 when he was in the UAE doing the qualifier coverage for the T20 World Cup qualifier, where Papua New Guinea won their group to qualify for the T20 World Cup for the first time. And what is extraordinary about their fielding in my eyes is their foot speed to the ball. So often fielding analysis is confined to catching ability, catching sharpness and throwing strength and ability to throw down the stumps, run outs, throwing accuracy. Very rarely do I see or hear much analysis on television focusing on foot speed and how important that is in the field. Papua New Guinea is the best team I've seen at any level in terms of their foot speed to the ball. I would argue some of the Australian teams in the 2000s, when Ricky Ponting was at backward point and in the covers, and Michael Clark, and you had Andrew Simons in those teams, those Australian teams, and even nowadays, their catching standards and their ability to affect runouts. Ricky Ponting was just relentless, merciless force throwing down the stumps. You did not give him an opportunity because lights out, that was it. And now I would say Ravindra Jadeja, in terms of fielders, he's the one fielder in the world I would say you do not give him an opportunity to throw the stumps because he's absolutely merciless. Okay. But Papua New Guinea, their catching is good. Their throwing is good. But where they are merciless is in their foot speed to the ball. They cut off and create havoc in the circle by getting to the ball quicker than any other fielding unit in international cricket. And it's very deceptive. A lot of their players, you would, at first glance, underestimate them because physically, they just don't look that imposing. but you get out into the field and they're like quicksilver. So running between the wickets, when they're batting, running between the wickets, it's just quicksilver, absolute lightning. They're in the field again, just lightning in the field. They create chaos and they create havoc and distress just from denying singles and creating indecisiveness by that foot speed to the ball, which is so underrated in so many aspects of cricket, and it's not really evaluated that well and measured that well in terms of evaluating fielding effectiveness and fielding ratings. And that's where Papua New Guinea excels. Backward point in the covers, in the ring, mid on, mid off. You cannot be risking singles against Papua New Guinea. And that to me is exciting to watch when I see them in the field. And the noise they make, the passion, the infectiousness, the energy that they have. Oh, yipping and yeah, they're always just making so much noise. And it's hard not to smile when you talk about them and think about them. And just the spirit that they have on the field. And in saying those things, I don't want to get carried away talking those things up, because in some way I find it almost disrespectful or denigrating to their actual skill level. These players are extremely skilled, extremely talented. They have very good batting skills. They have very good bowling skills in terms of swing bowling. They don't have any out-and-out pacers, but their skill in terms of moving the ball off the seam, moving the ball, in the air, wrist position and all that. They've had a lot of coaching from Australian former pros over the years, with Peter Anderson, former longtime wicketkeeper in Australian first class cricket, Andy Bickle. Joe Dawes was there. Jason Gillespie has been there in the past. Carl Sandry, who himself played for Italy, he's an Australian bass player who played for Italy, dual national, played in the associate team, has just become their head coach, Carl Sandry. So, they've gotten an awful lot of experience on the coaching side that has contributed to them. But they're very, very skilled players. Deepak Patel, I don't want to leave Deepak Patel. Deepak Patel had a huge influence from New Zealand, spending quite a few years there coaching the Papua New Guinea side. But yeah, they're a high energy team, and it's just hard not to fall in love with them when you watch them for the first time. And I'm really excited to see how other people react when they get a chance to see them for the first time on a true global platform. But two players in particular I'd want to mention on that fielding front. Legacy Aka is, I think, one of the top fielders in international cricket, and he's been on the Papua New Guinea scene for quite a long time. He played for the under-19s in 2009, 2010. Legacy Aka, and Charles Amini, CJ Amini. The Amini family is a very, very long lineage in Papua New Guinean cricket. And his father played, his mother was a national team captain. His grandfather was a captain, I believe. The national stadium in Port Moresby, Amini Park, is named after the Amini family. And so CJ Amini, Charles Amini, is a leg spinning all-rounder. I think he should be playing in the Big Bash somewhere. I don't know why he's not getting a contract, because again, a lot of these players on the associate team, they're just kind of hidden off the radar. They don't get much television exposure. I think CJ Amini is a player who, once he gets on television in the T20 World Cup, I would find it very, very hard to believe that he would not get an initial contract offer in some franchise T20 competition, whether it's the Big Bash or something else in the CPL or another league that offers opportunities, PSL, whatever. CJ Amini as a leg spinner. Leg spinners are always in demand in T20 cricket now, and his fielding is at another level. And so Legacy Aka and CJ Amini, in terms of fielding and Legacy Aka's batting skills, he's a very powerful opening batsman. CJ Amini in the middle order and as a leg spinner, those are the two guys I would be keeping an eye on if you're looking for somebody to focus on when Papua New Guinea comes on the scene.
Well, that's two names that I would definitely look forward to when the World T20 comes. But you mentioned another thing, that you're surprised that why Charles Amini is not playing a league so far. And I want, this brings me to something else, which which is sometimes discussed in a few cricketing circles in terms of how the associate nations can improve. So there's always been a suggestion that whenever teams are coming to play India for test matches, they should probably play a 4-day game or a test match versus Afghanistan, because Afghanistan plays most of its games in India, either in Dehradun or in Lucknow. And a few years back, even Jason Gillespie had given this suggestion, that who was the coach of Papua New Guinea at that time, that probably Papua New Guinea need to play in the Australian domestic limited overs tournament. So, what do you feel about these suggestions? Do you think that they go a long way in helping? Because a lot of people also say that the reason why someone like Ireland or a Scotland or Netherlands have improved is because they've had players who've played the county cricket a lot. So, what's your take on this?
Again, you need a willing partner. So there needs to be some sort of magnanimity from the full member board, full member host nation. It would be great for Papua New Guinea to be part of the Australian first-class domestic system. But again, that takes a willingness from Cricket Australia and an open-mindedness from Cricket Australia. Do they want to open up their domestic system to making room for Papua New Guinea, if not necessarily in the Sheffield Shield right away, at the very least, the One-Day Cup? Why not allow Papua New Guinea to participate in the One-Day Cup? Because again, there's some logistical factors I think people kind of overlook when these things come up. To welcome a team into a first-class competition would mean basically funding them. Somebody would need to fund them. Either the associate board would need to fund them, or the host full member would need to fund them in terms of their participation in the competition. And in a first-class structure, that could be 6 months. Now, if you're saying, 3, 4, 5 months, whatever. If you're saying Afghanistan should be welcomed into Ranji Trophy, well, that's a months-long competition. That they would need to pay for flights, travel, hotels, to cover all these costs, in addition to the contract fees and match fees for Afghanistan. Afghanistan is pretty well off for a lower ranked test nation, but they can't, I don't know if they can afford all of that. Papua New Guinea doesn't have that kind of funding. Okay, so could Papua New Guinea realistically participate in the Sheffield Shield? If the Sheffield Shield runs from November to March, 5 months, you're asking them somebody to put up 5 months worth of money to fund them to travel around in hotels for 5 months in Australia, because they don't have a home base. This is a guest visiting country, right? So it's not like New South Wales or Western Australia, where for 5 out of the 10 matches they're home. They can go to their houses, their apartments, their flats, whatever, and their home training facilities. If you welcome an associate into a competition like that, they're going to be the nomads. They're always going to be on the road, living out of a suitcase, and that has always been an issue in the last decade or so at international cricket level. And if it's an issue there, well, then it's definitely going to be an issue at domestic level if you try and welcome these teams in. So for first-class cricket, I think it's a stretch just for the logistical factor. It has nothing to do with competitive nature. I think Papua New Guinea could be quite respectable from a competitive standpoint in the Sheffield Shield if they were to enter a team into the Sheffield Shield, because they've been very competitive when they've got gotten opportunities to play in the Intercontinental Cup. But it has nothing to do with a competitive standpoint. It's purely a logistical thing. I think it's a lot more feasible from a cost and logistics standpoint to welcome some of these teams into a One-Day Cup competition or a domestic T20 Cup competition outside of any franchise competition. If they've got a T20 domestic competition, in India, like say for example that Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy, which is independent of the IPL, right? If an Afghanistan team was welcomed into that, I think that would be fantastic. If Papua New Guinea, again in Australia, if Papua New Guinea was welcomed by Cricket Australia to participate in the One-Day Cup, which in recent years, if I'm not mistaken, the One-Day Cup in Australia has been confined to a 2 or 3 week period, where instead of it being spread out over the course of a 4-month, 5-month summer, just condense it into a couple week period, get all the matches out of the way in a specific location. That's achievable. And other countries and other regions have done that. So in the past, say for example, Namibia has been welcomed into the Cricket South Africa provincial competition, and the Namibian players have gotten a hell of a lot of growth and experience out of participating in that, which has been wonderful. USA and Canada in recent years have been welcomed into the one-day competition in the West Indies. So USA, and I went to Trinidad in November 2019 for that competition to cover USA. USA was involved in the group with Trinidad and Tobago, the West Indies emerging team, which wound up actually winning the tournament. The West Indies was effectively an under-19, under-23 side, which had Joshua De Silva as one of the stars, who's now made his test debut since then. He was kind of off the radar. I remember he scored a half century against the USA and was looking quite sharp, and you could see he was a player to watch out for. But yeah, USA went, Canada went. USA, I think, went 3 years in a row from 2018 January, 2018 October. And so it was the 2017-18 season, 2018-19, and 2019-20. Again, USA went in November 2019 to Trinidad. They didn't go to the most recent one-day cup competition in the West Indies because of COVID restrictions and COVID logistical factors. But USA and Canada essentially have an open invitation from the Cricket West Indies board to participate in the West Indian regional one-day competition, which is fantastic. And the USA players have definitely benefited from participating in that. The Canada players, I know, have benefited significantly from participating in that. So the evidence is there. It's just a matter of spreading that further afield. Ireland and Scotland and Netherlands used to participate in the one-day competition in England. They have not in recent years for a variety of reasons, in part because some of those boards felt they could never field their best team because a lot of the players were already on contracts with other counties. So if you had, Paul Sterling's playing for Middlesex and William Porterfield is, I forget if William Porterfield was at Warwickshire, Boyd Rankins is at Warwickshire, ECB one-day cup. 6, 7, 8 out of the first choice players. Andy Balbirnie was playing in Middlesex for a while. George Dockrell was at Somerset. Stuart Pointer was at Durham, I believe. And so you've got 7, 8, 9 first choice Ireland players who are on county contracts at that stage. And essentially you're entering an Ireland B side into the competition. That's great for the Ireland kind of second rung players to get that opportunity, but you're not getting a true representation of Ireland's best competitive strength in that event. And that was part of the reason why they withdrew along with Scotland and the Netherlands. You got an awful lot of Dutch players who are playing county cricket, but they wouldn't be necessarily available to play for a Netherlands team if they were entered as a Netherlands side in that competition. So there's some quirks in different regions of the world, but where possible, I think it's a fantastic initiative. It's been demonstrated successfully in Africa, in South Africa, with Namibia being part of the CSA competition. It's been demonstrated successfully in the West Indies, and USA hasn't just shown up and made up the numbers. USA has won some games. USA has beaten the Leeward Islands a couple of times in that Cricket West Indies competition, so it's not like they're just getting pounded every game. They've actually been quite competitive and won some games. So they're not humiliating themselves by any means. They're learning, they're improving. If Papua New Guinea got that opportunity in Australia, I think it would be fantastic, and definitely in Asia, outside of the Asia Cup, if there's an opportunity for Nepal to, at the start we mentioned Afghanistan, and why isn't Afghanistan getting an opportunity to play in the Ranji Trophy? But why not Nepal? Enter Nepal in a team into the Ranji Trophy, or the One Day Cup in India, or the Syed Sheikh Trophy. There's no reason why Nepal couldn't enter a team and be represented and participate, and that would be fantastic for them. So there are some pieces of evidence where it has already been occurring, and that should only encourage some other regions to take that lead and follow that lead and open up some opportunities for some other countries, hopefully, in the future.
What your answer has sort of made me understand is that a strong cricket South Africa and a strong South African cricket team is not just important for the sake of international cricket and for the sake of South Africa being good at cricket. It's very important for the game of cricket to develop in Africa, like how you said that because Namibia was allowed to play in the domestic circuit of South Africa was the reason that their players could improve. It's an excellent point why someone like a South Africa should also be looked after by the ICC and the big teams to ensure that they are also doing well. Else, if they stop doing well, then the growth of cricket in that whole continent will be restricted, because they are the ones who are providing a way for associate countries to do well and become better. So, and like another thing that I've learned today. So, I just mentioned about how important South Africa is for the growth of game, not only from their own perspective, but the perspective of other countries in the Africa region to become better cricketing nations. Now, you've mentioned about how Papua New Guinea can be a great side and everything. Now, I just want to know how important is cricket or success in cricket related to the societal structure, or how is it viewed in a larger viewpoint? Because if we go back 20 years, if you look how cricket was being celebrated uh, in Bangladesh, like when Bangladesh had defeated Pakistan in the 1999 World Cup, they declared a national holiday. Cricket was huge in Sri Lanka when even when they were not the force that they were a few years back. So, do you think the success in cricket also sort of affects the larger picture of the society in a few countries, say countries like Nepal? I'm not speaking of Afghanistan, because we've already seen the impact cricket has had in Afghanistan, because Rashid Khan has said that how people now genuinely look forward to taking up cricket as a genuine option. So, any other such story which comes from any other associate nation?
It happens where cricket is ingrained in the culture and there's a strong grassroots scene. Okay. So in Nepal, before Nepal really burst onto the scene at senior level with Sandeep Lamichhane and Paras Gadka and Gyanendra Malla and Sharad Vasakar and Hassan Regmi and some of these other players, Sampal Kami and Karen KC, who have really emerged in the senior team in the last decade. They were historically very, very competitive at under 19 World Cups. 2004, 2006, 2010, no, not 2010. 2004, 2006, I want to say 2008. They were either going to the final of the plate competition or they were winning the plate competition, which is essentially the losers bracket. But they were beating test nations as part of their course to victory in the plate competition. And that was the evidence that they had a very, very strong junior cricket scene and grassroots cricket scene. So there was support at local level and in the community for the game. And you could see the foundations there being laid of a future success at men's level or at senior level. And you're starting to see the evidence that now in Papua New Guinea as well. Papua New Guinea for years and years and years has been very successful at under 19 level, going to, I think they may have missed one under 19 World Cup, or they may not have even missed any under 19 World Cups in the last 16 or 18 years. I think they've been to every single under 19 World Cup representing the East Asia Pacific region. So they've had an extraordinarily successful run at junior level, with the exception of Japan was the team that qualified for the last under 19 World Cup out of the East Asia Pacific instead of Papua New Guinea, and there were some interesting circumstances around that. That's another story for another day. But anyway, the point is Papua New Guinea has had a very, very successful junior structure in place, and they've got their playing numbers. We were talking about USA earlier, and the fact that the pyramid is inverted. You've got thousands and thousands of adults, but very minuscule percentage by comparison at junior level. Papua New Guinea is the proper pyramid, if you will. Okay, Papua New Guinea's playing numbers at junior level are enormous, and it works their way up into the senior team. Okay, and you can see that if this continues to be sustained, and the senior players are now on central contracts, they're not extravagant, but they're getting paid. They work as staff members at Papua New Guinea, whether it's working at the Amini Stadium or as junior development officers or coaches, local coaches. The point is they get paid to work for cricket, and there's a career path for them in cricket, enabled by the ODI status. And in those countries where the foundation is strong, when there is success, it is widely celebrated. So Nepal is a great example. Papua New Guinea is a great example. In spite of the fact that USA and UAE and Oman have ODI status, that doesn't exist in those countries. And because in each place, the cricket is predominantly expat based, very minimal, negligent numbers in terms of the youth infrastructure. It's not widely celebrated in the main community. It's kind of an underground sport. If you know that cricket exists, you know where to find it. But if you didn't know anything about cricket, you wouldn't have no clue that cricket is a sport where your country's in the top 15 in the global rankings in the UAE or Oman and the USA. So that reference that you made to Sri Lanka and to Bangladesh, Bangladesh going back to '99, beating Pakistan in the World Cup and then parlaying that into test status and the celebrations and the national holiday and all that. Again, Bangladesh was a country where cricket had a huge imprint in the fabric of the community. Okay, so which countries are most likely to replicate what Bangladesh did in 1999 or what Afghanistan has done recently? Afghanistan, again, has a very significant imprint in the community in Afghanistan in terms of there are very few sports that are celebrated, period. And the fact that Afghanistan has risen up in cricket as a point of national pride. Okay, it's not like Rashid Khan is a nobody. Rashid Khan he's not just somebody in cricket, he's just somebody in terms of the national culture of Afghanistan, right? Sandeep Lamichhane is somebody in the national culture of Nepal. Okay, Asad Vala, the Amini family, they are somebody in the national culture of Papua New Guinea. Okay, Stephen Taylor for the U.S. team, he's not somebody that's in the national culture of American sports. Nobody knows who Stephen Taylor is in America outside of his hometown in Florida, right? In the UAE, does anybody know outside of the cricket community who is Ahmed Raza? Ahmed, I love you. You're a great guy. I'm a big fan of yours. You're wonderful to talk to, but let's just call it spade a spade. Ahmed Raza outside of cricket, I don't know too many people in UAE who if could pick Ahmed Raza out of a police lineup. Okay, and that's the struggle. In the countries where there's a huge imprint, yeah, you can see cricket exploding even more than it already has in Nepal and in Papua New Guinea. In the USA and Oman, the UAE, countries like that, it's going to take a minor miracle for that transformation to happen in the near future.
Definitely, in terms of the pop, when you mention the likes of Sandeep Lamichhane and Rashid Khan, they're not only names in the culture of Nepal. Now they've become huge names in the culture of cricket. They've played in the IPL, and Sandeep Lamichhane has a decent enough following in the city of Delhi itself because he's done well for them. Rashid Khan has become a local superstar in Hyderabad. So I get what you're getting at.
But it's not just in India. I mean, in Nepal, like if you go to Nepal, when I was in Nepal in 2020 to cover the ODI series with USA and Oman, there were signs in shop windows where Sandeep Lamichhane was in advertisements. He was a paid endorser. Like you would see him in ads. I remember that there was a luggage company. I can't remember if it was American Tourister or some other luggage brand, but Sandeep Lamichhane was like showcasing the luggage. And you had to be kind of blind or stupid not to know who Sandeep Lamichhane is. Whether you follow cricket or not, you know who Sandeep Lamichhane is, right? When USA, and this kind of cracked me up, when USA played Nepal in the last match, USA was bowled out for 35 by Nepal. Very famous match, tied for the lowest score in ODI history with a score made by Zimbabwe way back when. Okay. Before the match, the USA ambassador to Nepal Randy Berry comes out. They had this big kind of presentation where the American ambassador, very prestigious diplomat, comes out to the field, and he's welcomes. There's a line to greet him for the USA squad and the Nepal squad. And the American ambassador, Randy Berry, he had no clue who the hell these USA players were. Okay, he's meeting all the USA players for the first time, has no idea who any of them are. Okay, but as he's walking down the Nepal line, he greets Sandeep Lamichhane with like a big hearty hello. He knows who Sandeep Lamichhane is, and Paris Kodka, he says, "Hey Paris, Paris, how you doing? Oh, it's so good to see you again. Oh, haven't seen you since that function we held, a couple months ago. How's life? How you been?" He knows Paris Kodka. He knows Paris Kodka personally. Okay, he knows who Paris Kodka is. Paris Kodka is a big deal in Nepal. We talk about Sandeep Lamichhane. Paris Kodka in Nepal, very big deal. Sandeep Lamichhane is known outside of Nepal in the IPL and internationally, but within Nepal, Paris Kodka is a huge deal. Okay, the American ambassador to Nepal knows Paris Kodka personally and has met him and interacted with him at various diplomatic functions and being a celebrity in Nepal, but yet he has no clue who the hell the USA players are. Right. So again, that gives you some insight into the scope of the celebrity status that these guys have in the culture of Nepal compared to USA.
Well, now moving on to my last question, and with this I'll wrap up also. Do you think the introduction of the ODI Super League is going to change, change the scene of opportunities for the associate countries?
Sorry, Sarah. One more time. Could you repeat that? You cut out on me.
Do you think that the introduction of the ODI Super League is going to change the scene of opportunities for the associate nations and associate countries? Do you think the associate countries and associate nations benefiting from the ODI Super League?
Well, they'll benefit through performance. It's not a matter of just showing up and being happy that you're there. If the ODI Super League is going to benefit associate cricket, then Netherlands has to compete well. Okay, Netherlands can't afford to go winless in the Super League, because then that'll just give cannon fodder to all these people. Going back to the argument about the discussion we had about people who were born in 2021 and forget that cricket has existed for 300 years and teams have struggled to win. Right? They're going to see that and they're going to jump on that. Oh, Netherlands sucks. They can't win. They're not competitive. Why do they even bother including an associate in the 13-team Super League? Get them out of here. Right? If Netherlands is going to help the associate cause, not just for Netherlands, but for associate cricket broadly, Netherlands has to make a mark in the Super League. Netherlands cannot afford to finish last. At the very least, Netherlands has to finish above Zimbabwe. Netherlands has to finish above either Ireland or Afghanistan. It's going to be tough to finish above Afghanistan. But Netherlands has to finish above one of Ireland, Zimbabwe, or Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is struggling an awful lot right now in the Super League. And again, it's not everybody plays everybody. You have to keep that in mind. So Sri Lanka has suffered quite heavily in the losses they've had so far, and they've already had points deducted based on their over rate. And they're not. There's no guarantee that they're going to be able to make up points, because again, they don't play everybody. So it's not like they can just automatically beat up on some of the lower ranked teams to make up points. And in some ways that also works to Netherlands' advantage. So that they're not going to necessarily have to face all of the strongest teams. It's just a matter of accumulating points when and where they can. So if there's going to be an argument made for including more teams in the Super League going forward, whether expanding it to 14 teams or 15 teams or whatever number, and the competitive nature of it going forward, Netherlands, it's so crucial for associate cricket broadly that Netherlands performs very well on behalf of all of associate cricket.
So what you're essentially saying is, and it makes a lot of sense, is that although the 11 players on the park will be playing under the name of Netherlands and under the flag of Netherlands, but they will have the support and sort of blessings of all associate nations, namely Nepal, Papua New Guinea, Namibia, Oman, USA, Canada, etc., etc. And it's a very important point that you make, because if Netherlands don't do well, And if they do very poorly, then the same set of people who've been bashing Zimbabwe or other countries on whatever little failure that they've had, then they'll have an argument to make that we really should close elite cricket to 10 teams only. And if the winner of the qualifying tournament has not done well, then what else can you expect from other teams? So it's an excellent point. Peter, I'd like to say that I've had a lot of fun having this chat with you. I've myself, learned a lot about associate cricket because, like I said, it's not covered much in the mainstream media, and you struggle to get a lot of information and stories. Very grateful to you for bringing those stories to us and sharing your experiences, sharing the facts of the associate world of cricket, which sometimes are hidden in the narratives, like we discussed today. And I hope you had fun, and hope you felt that probably this conversation of ours is going to change a few minds, if not more.
Well, thank you, Gurkharad, for having me on. And yeah, hopefully, if anything, we've reminded people that cricket didn't start in 2021. There is a rich history in the game that people need to acknowledge and remember. And hopefully, there will be much greater history written from 2021 going forward.
Thank you, Peter. And all of you should remember that Peter has taken a couple of names from the Papua New Guinea team. If they do well, you need to remember where he took those names first, and you have to share this video then again with whosoever that okay, certain players were picked up by Peter Della Penna in his chat on Gupshup with Gill. If you've liked this, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share this video with others. We'll keep coming up with a lot more content on not just cricket, but other sports as well. In the meantime, do watch the remaining episodes if you haven't. Do watch out the remaining snippets of all of the chats that are there. And like I said, subscribe to the channel. Also, to know more about USA cricket and associate cricket, you can always follow Peter on Twitter, follow Peter on Facebook. He has a page. And also you can follow his podcast so that you know more about the associate cricket and more importantly, American cricket. That's it for today. That's it from this episode of Gupshup with Gill. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.